Thank you for being here. Our last class on the Great Search. Everybody have their Great Search figured out then? Everyone has it written down? You know where you're going now? Know what you found? Oh, now we really got things happening. Yeah, I hear you. Thank you for being online. Thank you for those who are there. And oh my goodness, let's figure out what this all might mean to all of us. After going through, maybe we had a chance to at least read a little part of this, or at least get a sense of this. The Great Search, there's so time to read it, find it, borrow it, whatever. How important it is to get other people's life stories, what they've discovered, and we share it with our own. So this day, we're going to wrap up the whole Great Search book as a prelude then for our own Great Search moving forward. Why did we do this in the first place? Well, it could be on a surface level. You'll be going through a search for a new pastor. What does that mean for this church, for that whole process? And so maybe that's the surface level, and the Great Search seemed to connect with that. But it goes a lot deeper than that, we know. It goes to the fact that we always think it's only our generation, but for generations before us, for decades, for centuries, every group of people are on their own search. No one ever gets there. I don't think any 1 year people sit in that year, oh, we found it. This is it. This is the perfect thing we need to all know about. We never get there. But it's the search, how important that is. And this group of people, these 9 people, along with John Philip, makes 10, could help us along the way. And find others that will help you along the way. You probably have in your mind a person or persons that could be in this book. And so go back to them and be helped by them. You know, I wrote in my letter to the saints yesterday, and when I get discouraged about Christianity or the church or present life as we know it and see it and experience it, John Philip is one of the people I go back to, because he always has a wider vision and a deeper understanding of life that I've tried to figure out. And he makes the scriptures come alive. He makes the God experience come alive. And so I follow John Philip, and added pleasure is having known him some. And it's always fun to know people that do the writing. And I always like to know that when I'm reading a book, I want the person writing it to be a really good person. And he is. And so it makes it doubly special. So find that person in your life. That's the first thing I'll start off with. And let me turn this on the microphone. Find that person. You may want to lift it up right now. Who is a person that you go to? Who's your go-to person to understand life around you? Do you have that person? Hold that in mind, then. So, right. So this class then will be in 3 parts after the introduction, which I just gave. The first will be, what has Christianity lifted up through the years to this age of ours that has been paramount to an understanding of what the church believed and what they did? What are those words, those issues that were so central to Christianity that becomes the foundation of what we've had to stand on to be where we are now, to see something maybe more? The second part would be what we did see in the Great Search. And what I did was I went through every one of these amazing people and I summarized. And I'll get this out to you when we get to that point. So if you didn't get a chance to read it or you missed a 7 Sundays or so, you can read kind of the basic things that John Philip said that they were talking about. And that might be a guide for you. And then the third one, the last one will be, so what now? Where are we as a congregation, as a world? What are we searching for? What are we finding? What are we yearning for? So you get those 3 points: past, the book, and then the present going forward. But I'm going to leave my screen right now, if you don't mind, Gail and Sky, to write down things on the board here. But I'm going to find out Christianity before 312. What was Christianity all about? That's the early church. That's Jesus moving forward. Jesus, then his followers, after he was crucified, and they still got a sense that Jesus was with them. The sacredness had not been killed, and that God was present. And they had all these marvelous stories that show up in the book of Acts, especially. But then Paul's letter shows up, and other letters that we have in the New Testament. Most of the New Testament's letters, except for 5 books, real letters. And so people were sharing these back and forth. What was their excitement to share letters and in stories of Jesus? What were some of the words? The pre-312 time. Yeah, building community. Okay. This yell it out. Inclusive. Yeah, inclusive. Yeah. So very much so.
So they allowed anybody to join?
Yep. The early church was. You find that in the letters. They had everybody. They had slaves, they had rich people, they had women, leaders, they met in women's houses.
So in 312, we just decided to throw that out.
Well, we'll get to that. Remember 312.
I do.
Yeah. And so, but that was inclusive community. What else we have?
Resistance? Romans?
Yes. Just a quick story. Resistance, yeah. Remember getting the 5,000, 4,000? That's the most written story in the gospel. It goes up 6 times. 4,000 or 5,000, depending on where you were and what perspective you're coming from, whether it's 4,000 or 5,000. But do you know the story behind the story? It wasn't just because they were hungry or they wanted to listen to Jesus or all those people there. Every one of those people that were there on that hillside or wherever they were in that wilderness area, they could have been imprisoned and executed. It was against the law for that many people to congregate on Roman law. And so if they were found out, that was it. And they went anyway. They all knew the law and they went in resistance. Yeah. That's the story we don't hear too much. About getting it back then. It's always nice to keep that in your ear. No, resistance. What else? Oh, I'm going to put down.
Right, the feminine side.
Yeah. And the most popular name, a woman's name in the gospel.
And also the Quran.
And also strength.
She's mentioned more times in the Quran than in the New Testament.
Okay, cool. Why? Why is that?
Because a scribe wrote it. And the scribe was either Zoroastrian or Jewish. Because Muhammad could not read or write, including Quran.
Oh, okay. So for the Quran,
But the other, I don't know.
yeah, Mary has 3 definitions. This is all apropos to what I'm talking about here. Before 312, why so many Marys? Mary means it's from Miriam, Moses' older sister, who saved him. I put him in the reed basket in the river, that whole story. Miriam becomes Mary. And that means three things: bitter, beloved, and rebellion. Take whatever one definition you like, but they're all there for merit. Bitter because it's probably a bitter life they were leading and a bitter time to be alive, bitter whatever it is. It causes them to think bitter. Naming a child bitter. What a life we live. We can feel that way sometimes. But also you're beloved. You're a child of God. You're loved. Oh, how wonderful that is. We're part of the New Testament early church name. That the other one is rebellion. That's what Mary means. Every time you read rebellion, Mary in the New Testament, just translate rebellion and see what comes up. Resistance, rebellion. This is the zeitgeist, the times they lived in. The time of trying to deal with oppression and empire. And they showed up in so many different ways, sometimes they knew in people's lives. Okay, anything else for the early church before 3:12?
Spreading the good news.
Good news. Because there was such bad news all the time, and that they were told the good news was what Rome was doing. So they were going right in the face of Rome. Caesar was good news. What they were doing is good news. And they said, no, that's not it. It's Jesus. And so they were always going at the empire in ways that we're uncovering. The more you read scripture, the more you see it. So, anything else? We'll get to it later on. But this is really a sense of that Christian community. They help each other. If people are new in a community, they can go to one of these gatherings of people who follow Christ, and they were taken in. If somebody needed food, they would make sure they had it. If there was some kind of need for medical care, they would provide it. And they were that kind of a group of people.
They do radical love and nonviolence.
Radical love and nonviolence. Wow. Nonviolence. Even the early church, Rome was conscripting young men in the army. You just had to. Those who followed Christ refused to do their detriment, but they did. It was quite a crowd that gathered around this whole experience of the Savior they found through Jesus. They found something different that they never experienced, never felt, never saw, heard before. And then they went, oh. And you know what? Rome could not defeat that. Much they tried. They had lions out with them. Didn't work. They had imprisoned Christians. They called them Christians. It was a derogatory term, little Christs. Being called names didn't make a difference. They couldn't defeat them. So, I'll turn this around. What happened in 312? Yeah, Constantine, part of the empire, had this vision in a war that there's a cross there, and that he followed Christ and win that battle. He won the battle, but maybe Christ was involved, so he wanted to have all of the world become Christian for all sorts of reasons, I'm sure. Right? And so from 312, we'll get a date down here. See what happened between 312 and whatever date we decide it ended. So what happened 312 onward? What took place? Remember, this is a great search, everybody. We're still trying to figure out how we can live life in the presence of God, and God's presence with us, and live the life that we're supposed to live. What would they say in the church?
Control.
Control.
Violence.
Violence.
Do they approach orthodoxy versus orthopraxy? The right way of thinking versus the right way of doing?
Yeah. Right. And you're right. Not you got burned at the stake for not being right. Yeah. What else?
Exclusiveness.
Exclusive. Judgment. Wrath of God.
Hierarchy.
Hierarchy.
What can we throw in? Original sin.
Original sin.
This seems like a good place.
Let's throw it in. You know, my gosh, you know, and how this was all about this. If you tell people they sin, the only way you can get out of that sin is to do what we want you to do and give us things. And we'll tell you if you've gotten away from it, you can forgive them. That's control. And they use it all the time. What a great doctrine. If you want to control somebody, use original sin. And we still have that as part of what we think church is all about. And so we'll get to the other part and talk about that more. But yeah, original sin, nice idea. Not in the Bible, nice idea. Anything else?
And that goes along with fear.
Fear.
You can put people in
Yeah.
fear.
How many people grew up, even in this room, fearing God? 2, 3. You know, oh, if I do this, God will do. God's
But I was told.
Right? Yeah, all of these kind of things. You keep people under. You know, you didn't really see God doing that all the time in Scripture, and there's a reason why Scripture was written that way. To show, we didn't even put down the Bible example, more violent. To show how violent and warlike that society was, and how God could be depicted that way, because we're seeing it that way. We're seeing mostly through men's eyes. No, honestly, we are. And so, if women wrote these scriptures, it may not be the same. Your perspective. People from the margins wrote it. It may not be the same. But the powerful often wrote this, but not really. Because then the prophets showed through. And God showed through all of this mess in the world. And so don't think that God was happy with violence. God was trying to figure out how to get rid of it. As something more. A wrathful God is what people focus on. There's so many other stories. And wrath wasn't the way they probably depicted it to be. You know, all these ideas. Would you want to be part of a church like that?
Well, that's a question I have, Harry, is moving from the other side of the board to this side of the board, did we stop becoming Christian? Did the church end in 312 or following of Christ?
That's a great question. Did we go with the flavor of who Christ was, the image of Christ that we would have when we see all people? Did we treat people the way Christ would treat them? Oh, we do that.
Very some of these still apply for the Catholic Church today.
Not just the Catholic Church,
No.
applies to all the churches.
The church, ready? So now you're getting to things. So we're so worried about some of us, not me. Oh, the church is going down here. Oh, it isn't what it used to be. People aren't coming anymore. Now, how many times you heard that? You thought that? Oh, I went back in the name it, David.
54.
54. Yeah, 54. 54. This church was 54. Everything was just
Make the church great again.
make this church great again. Make church great again. Whatever. I don't know. All of that. But yeah, make church great again. We always have that mentality. Don't we? Make church great again. We just had more control over it. Make them come. Make it a sin not to come to church every week. Ooh, what a great idea the Catholics have had for years. Or other faith communities, not just Catholic. You know? We've been controlled. And the violence seems to be taken as if that's just the way our life is. Our world is violence. We might as well just go with it. I don't know. Orthodox, I think the right way, or else. We have all these creeds, confessions. You're supposed to guide us in the Presbyterian Church, but once in a while it gets to be more than just a dogma. And so all of a sudden we can't move very well. Exclusive, let's put those people over there because the real believers are here. That's what we are. Judgment, why not? Those people are not doing things right. So wrath, yeah, that's what God does when we're doing things right. And that's who God is. Hierarchy. You know, I'll be in 2 weeks from now walking to the plaza with all of you. And there's the Archbishop. I love Archbishop Western. He's great. He really is. Keep that in mind. For a Catholic, yeah. And he breaks some rules. He really does. He's wearing a hat. He has he has attendance. And we have Michael Hunt, the church that will be up there. He's a great guy. I spent time with him on the dais of the Senate for about half an hour. And we're both baseball catchers in college. We talked baseball the whole time. And we were thinking of going to the same school. You know, that kind of thing. He's a great, I love both of them. And he doesn't have his hand on them. They'll have to calculate for the time. But I tell him, what am I wearing? Oh, I had to wear a robe. A black robe. I may have a nice stole, maybe. I always wanted to have a little hat. So it would be like the rest of them. I have hierarchy. Sensory part. Why did the Presbyterians have black robes? It was for education, symbolic education, but it's also to blend in more with the people who are standing out there listening to them. They weren't wearing all the colors and all the gold and everything else as a Catholic student. They were just wearing some absence of color to blend in with the drabness of that day and the poverty of the people. You know? So there's 2 reasons why a robe is being worn. Original sin, thank you. Here, yes. Did we do a good job so far? Let's hold on to this. Now I'm going to pass this out. And maybe we this pass out over this way, and over this way. Yeah. I'll be right here. I just want to go through and see if we find any themes in what we're reading about these different people. As I said before, if you want to get the book and read a lot more than what I just wrote down, please do. But let me just lead us through the 9 different people and what they're all about. I'm just going to try to keep some of the time. So Thomas Berry, I answered it last week, I believe. You notice I put the dates down of birth and death. No one alive is in this book. I don't know what that means. Just John Philip. Oh, just John Philip, right. He's the only one that shows up, not with a chapter, but he wrote the whole thing. So everyone have a copy? Okay. And so Thomas Berry, vision is boundless in the cosmos, forever unfolding, inspired by the interrelatedness of all things. A theologian. What is a logi mean? Is a theology is learning about God. It's learning about the earth, creation, and all that. A vision of hope in the face of the enormous challenges of our time. Notice he just passed away 16 years ago. Return to true relationship with Earth and every life form. Every life form. Doesn't say some life forms. Each species a unique expression of God. Think about what that means when we have species go extinct. Expressions of God go extinct because we learn to live in true and sustainable relationship with Earth. He's a person for our time, for our understanding of our need to be living sustainably, to cherish the Earth as part of our vision statement as our church, to cherish all creation. Any thoughts about this one? You may remember class last week if you were there. Any thoughts, insights, or anything that touches you deeper than just words on a page? Make sense? Kind of refreshing. We just got done with this side of the board. We kind of breathe a little bit better by having Thomas Berry come in and play here, because I don't think that's what the church has been about. There's always been that dichotomy, that stuff. There's earth, there's all that stuff, and then there's the soul. We're saying it's connected. You just can't say, oh, now our spiritual life over here, and then the rest of our life over here. It doesn't work that way. So we understand it often that way. So, Man Shepherd, about Earth, Scotland. Did you do this one?
I did.
Yeah. Anything you want to say with these words? I just pick things out of the book. Anything?
Just the real sense that she was a part of the earth and that she was a part of what she understood as God to be, because God was earth and God was everything. So she became with earth while she was in the mountains, which was most of her life.
Yeah. Nice. Well, and let's continue with that. Earth's well-being and our well-being are inseparably related. Don't think that you can be well if the Earth isn't. It's the saddest thing. Jenny and I were in Washington last weekend, and on Friday after we got there, no, just Washington State, and we tried to go see Mount Rainier. And we got to the very tip, the northwest tip of that whole state park, and we're driving by, and beautiful tall trees. And then there was just a whole section, just cut down. Yes, raised to the ground. Just devastation. Then trees, just devastation. It wasn't part of the park yet. We weren't in the park yet. But outside the park, it could have been gorgeous the whole way. It does something to me when you see it. Humanity shines in the same spiritual substance as fire. Sacred fire of our essence, deeper than all things. Everything can be seen as a revelation of the light who loved the Scottish mountain. Go to the Scottish mountain. Not many trees on the Scottish mountain.
Fox.
So you get a sense now of the first two that John Philip has there, of how creation is so important, so much, so integral to their understanding of sacred. Let's go back a few more years earlier to Martin Buber, a very well-known theologian about presence, yearning to know the divine, not just about the divine. How important that is. I went to Yale Divinity School. I learned all about, not all about, I learned about God. But it was all of it, for the most part. And The journey has been these 40 plus years, and it's to move it down those 18 inches to the heart of the written Bible. So I'm not just saying, oh, and that's the way I was taught. This is supposed to. No, it's really taking Martin Buber's idea of presence. You have to know the divine, experience the divine, experience the sacred, and not just read books about it. One of the problems in the church today, faith community today, may be this very issue that we think we only can know about instead of experience. We find somebody who actually experiences, has eyes to see and ears to hear, as Jesus would say. All of a sudden, something comes alive in that room and that person's talking. That doesn't happen the same way. I did not have many professions come alive at the other day too, because they were talking about. But there may have been one or two that talked about their own experience, and all of a sudden, I am at the edge of my seat. You see the difference? I'm talking about that in my sermon today, so if you were there in the first service, I'm talking about some of that today, and what a difference that is, and what a difference that would mean if we were to continue that, and really be open to that. Whatever that means, that being open to it. So, and Martin Luther is known for, if he's known for anything, he's known for I, thou, and I, it. When the open heart of one person encounters the open heart of another, that's kind of what I'm getting at. When we're open to each other, open to the sacredness, there's something about this whole sense of reverence in that relationship. There's something more going on here instead of an I, it, when it just becomes an object, something to learn, something to write a paper about, a focus of an action or an intention, but not really coming from the soul deep within us. Now is the time of the divine presence, always now. It wasn't back then. It wasn't back in 1954. Thank you, Alex, for 1954. The height of what we thought was the height of Christianity in our day and age. No, it's present with us still. Present with us now. Spirit of the living God, present with us now. Enter us, body, mind, and spirit, and heal us of all that harms us in Jesus' name. Amen. That's the prayer we find in Iona Happy Worship Book. That's the prayer of healing. That can be our prayer today for healing. Spirit of the living God, present with us now. Martin Luther. Okay, you're ready to move on. We've got dreams in the first third of the book, that first section. Carl Jung. Anyone there for David Sullivan's presentation of Carl Jung? Anyone know Carl Jung or not? But I wrote down what things that John Philip wrote. It's all about lack of awareness or unconsciousness. It's really trying to get back to that greater and greater consciousness in our life, go deep within. And there's that desire for life, physical and spiritual. John Philip says he was a doctor of the soul, seeking to bring wholeness and healing to human life by accessing the longing for life that is within us. It is within us. Oh, okay. Essential pathway to truth is that awareness. You can read it right there. Soul is beautiful, sparkling with light. Encountering God, not an object of belief. There it is, Martin Buber again, his idea is an inception of all great religion. Often these people, they mention, these John Philip mentions in their chapter, the burning bush. That great story. And we've been taught, as I have, or thought all along, there was one amazing burning bush out of all the bushes in the world that happened that, boy, Moses, being that great Moses, he happened to find it, that bush found him. Boy, at one moment, one burning bush, one Moses, that was it. They're saying in this book, no, not really, that bushes are always burning. And start being open to it. Open to understanding God's presence in the burning, in the fire of all creation. Ooh, that changes things. I'm going to have to go to Sinai to see where Moses met a burning bush. I can go right outside. I didn't stay right in the institutions. I didn't stay right here and see all sorts of things that they then helped me open myself up to God's presence. You get the picture? Anything more about Carl Jung? Thin or no or not thin or not thin. God is present. That was in his room, his house, and I was on his gravestone. Thin or not thin, God is present. We don't have to say the magic words, "Oh God, hear our prayer," and then God will hear our prayer. God hears our prayer. Probably. Big differences. Julian of Norwich. Wellness. We can recite her famous phrase, "All shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well." What a great phrase and a terrible one. First, the worst pandemic in recorded history. She was dying when she was young. She received a dream-like series of visions or showing, she called them, for the next 8 hours. And she was kind of coming out of that whole death experience. And all of these images became part of her writings that showed up a lot later than in her lifetime. And she came to understand that in spite of all the terrible things happening in the world, that all shall be well, not just for her, she recovered, but all shall be well for the whole world. God is the essence of all things, the very center of everything. Health is to be found by seeking the source of life deep within us and deep within the body of the earth. To know our soul is to know God. Notice it say to know our mind is to know God. Is the soul, the being of all of us. Julian of Norwich. Linda Loving, I always think of Linda Loving now. She's been to her show so many times. He's a fellow. Companion of the Society of Julian of Norwich.
One of 39.
One of 39. Can you imagine that? Well, it should be well. Wow. And so the sixth person, who pronounces it? Who does the first name? Who can pronounce the name? Okay, thank you. Rumi. I only knew him by Rumi. Right? All that love. Look at when he lived. 1207, 1273. All these great poems, great phrases by Rumi. Love is a true religion. Everything else is like a thrown away bandage, said in John Ford's book. God is greater than that which you imagine. Yes. We can't get a picture of God and think we can hold it and keep it for ourselves. We can't think that all the ways that we've understood God is the limit of what God's all about. No. And love in its many forms needs to be experienced, to be known. You can't talk about love with experience, cherish. Waters of life that your soul longs for are deep within you. It's not out there somewhere. It's deep within you, Rumi would say. Keep digging your well, the water's there. There's a spring source that rises in everything and has been flowing in all things since the beginning of time. Imagine that idea, especially in 1207 and 1273. But you know, Rumi is from the Eastern, not church, Islam. Did I get that right?
Sufism.
Yeah, right. And not the Western way that we've done things differently in the West as opposed to the East. Rumi is certainly talking about the Eastern perspective. And it says the universe word is from the Latin uni meaning one, and verse meaning turn. Universe consists of one great turning. Everything is moving in relation to everything else. We're all connected. Read Rumi. Read more, but anyway, we're talking about what we can do today. Now, how do you pronounce this first name there? Thank you. 1861 to 1941. I believe in a spiritual world, not as anything separate from this world, but as its inmost truth. What else do we say about him? We study that chapter and read it. Anything? Okay.
Very similar to both the first two, that the earth, there's God in the earth.
Yeah.
And finding yourself, your soul, your experience with the earth.
Calls us to see, to free ourselves. I was doing this yesterday kind of quick and didn't read it all through. Sorry for some mistakes. From the limitations of self and nation, of religion and race, that we may join the one song, the world song that is deep in the human soul, in the soul of the earth, the one world song. Wow. Okay. Annie. How do you pronounce her last name? Hilson. 1914 to 1940. Can you imagine being born in the beginning of World War I and being killed in the midst of World War II? What a time to be alive. You know, I would think that somebody who was only, how old was she? She was only 29? That you would think that her whole life is in the midst of war or depression, conflict. You'd be kind of bitter, you'd be a Mary from the first definition. Why was I born in this time in the world? It's terrible. But she somehow lifted herself and was lifted up. And she recorded the journey of the soul amidst the horror of what people can do to one another and they did during those years of Nazi occupation and concentration camps. But she was able to witness the meaning and even the beauty of life. Now I live and breathe through my soul. She's a Jew, but she began to access the wisdom of Scripture, including the radical simplicity of Jesus' teaching. Learn the deep love and compassion of Jesus without the encumbrance of the church. Look at that phrase. Without the encumbrance of the church. Encumbrance, everybody, of the church. And most repeating refrain, despite all she experienced, was life is beautiful and meaningful. Oh my goodness. Well, okay. There was a film made back in 1997. Life is Beautiful. All about a man in concentration. Last one, Edward Muir, 1887, died. Julian of Norwich, 1959. Again, universe flooded with light, the immortal presence that shines in all things, symbols, myths, and wisdom deep within Christianity. Don't forget that. Even though we have that list, we have symbols, we have myths, and we have wisdom deep within Christianity, not just up here, deep down. Faith was humble, tentative, undogmatic. Theological dogmas do not help, Muir would say. And the question that he would ask, and he was asking that chapter was, what are our first experiences of life? That's a wrap up of this book and of these many, many sessions. Why? Because there's things that we still need to learn. Why? Because other people have learned things through this book. And we need to learn what it might mean to be church today when people are leaving this. I have no quarrel with people leaving this. I'd probably do it myself. Right? Why would I be part of all this? I don't. So, what then? You fix everything in 10 minutes. You have this etched in your mind or your soul. We move back to this page, the early church. What do you see there that we can cross off for today? That we don't want to have anything to do with today. Early church, you know? So we can keep this list then, right? Anything we want to add to that list from this list?
That's without the encumbrance of the church.
Oh, the other one. That's exactly encumbrance, right?
You know, as you were going through the different individuals on those sheets, it occurred to me what we've listed on both sides is within the context of Christianity or the Christian movement. Post 312, you can add one more thing that's more powerful, and that's political power.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at
Oh,
the
yeah.
evangelical movement in this country, their biggest concern is political power than anything else.
Well, you can add white supremacy here for the United States anyway.
Yeah, yeah. There we go.
When I was through in the Middle Ages, the church and the prince of France and other places, political power.
The power,
The Crusades,
and all mixed up, popes and kings.
Inquisitions.
Right, okay, good.
So how do we get rid of all that?
By turning.
No, but I mean, in real life, now,
That was the easier one.
we can all turn that whole thing, but. I mean, I see a real problem. There's a lot of people speaking out. I don't hear any established religions spending a lot of time speaking out.
Speaking out against all these things, all those
They're
things.
not those things, but things on the other side,
Mm-hmm.
especially now. So there's 156 lawsuits as of yesterday against tyranny in the States. What are we doing about that?
Okay. You have an answer for that? Lynn?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think one of the quandaries that we face is how do you deal with the extremes of belief? So we have that in the political realm, we have that in the evangelical realm. I was so blessed, really. I went to a gathering. The speaker was Julie Dichter, who is with shared vision of shared society for Israel. He's worked for 40 years in, out of Israeli dialogue. So I asked him this question, because his whole movement is to affirm and grow the believers in this shared vision. But they're right in the middle, as we are in some ways, of a very different context. And you know what he said? I thought it was really interesting. He said, I just preached to the crowd. He said there's about 78,000 people in Israel that are in the Combatants for Peace, Tomorrow's Women, Shared Vision domain. So anyway, it's just very hard to figure out, can you really undo these extreme and sometimes cult-like beliefs? How do you do that? Is there even a way?
So in the same kind of question now, what do we do? How do we dismantle this? How do we end this and move into something on the other side? There's a well-known preacher now, Lutheran pastor, who guys, Nadia Bowles-Weber. Who's heard of her? Anyone heard of her? Nadia Bowles, Bolz-Weber, and she was a late comer to being a Lutheran pastor. She lived in Colorado for a while now. She's kind of writing and speaking, and she's kind of a rock star. She has tattoos all over her. She uses a lot of language I use in church, but she's also one that really draw people in from the margins. They were hearing a message like this. And what she says was, the old phrase, well, we're just preaching to the choir. He said, yes, let's preach to the choir, and then have the choir sing out. Let us all make noise. Let us all stand up for things like this. We preach to the choir. I mean, that's who we have. on a Sunday morning, but now we have to go beyond these walls. This church is dying. But some are holding on very tight. Okay? The rest of us say, oh, it's not what it was when I was young. Okay, well, okay, I can give up this stuff. I keep my memories always good. And all the good things we've done. There's all sorts of good things in between some of this stuff, or maybe beyond this. This, I said, what date is this? It's still 2025. But things are changing where our churches are getting smaller because we're in a transition time. Transitions happen when things need to change. And instead of worrying about, what they have, okay, we need to embrace the transition where God is doing something new in the world. It's not up to us. We sure can figure out that we don't like this anymore. We're going to stand up as a choir. We're all choir members now. And we're going to be lifting up everybody like this. And we're going to add to them. You know, there's a sense of, and all the writings and readings that we had in that book, there's a sense of unity that we have to get in our minds. Come on, people. Stop dividing people. Stop. And all about creation here. Creation love. Cherish it. Because we're trampling on the sacredness. All about who God is when we don't take Him. So we're getting some things that are a little more than the early church. They couldn't worry about the creation care and tonight because they were trying to survive. And it was a different world and not sure what it looked like, but it probably wasn't good for you.
You also mentioned Harry marginalized, right?
Marginalized.
Yeah, back down to concern for those on the margins, right?
Yeah. On the margins, not the people in power. You know, the evangelical Christian right church is in power. We have been for a while. Yeah. And I say in power, they have the ear of those in power, and those with means and money. Okay, fine. But Christianity has never moved forward when that's happened. Look what happened in 312. That's what happened. Yeah.
I'm just throwing this out. I would love to see an adult ed on the skills of speaking to the other, because Jesus really didn't just speak to the choir. He had the publican, he had the tax collector, he had so many of the marginalized people. He reached out to speak with them. But in the society that we're in right now, I'm not sure I have the skill set to talk to the other. There are ways of doing that. You know, some people are so extreme that they'll never change their mind and they're not listeners. But is there some way to have a dialogue that could be a little bit effective? That at least you're reaching out, you're trying to identify who those others might be and trying to talk to them.
Yeah. Well, yeah, great. Dick is the elder for adult ed right now, and so you're taking notes, right?
I like that.
Yeah, but the phrase that comes to mind and the phrase you know well is preach the gospel and sometimes you do. You know? You don't have to preach and talk and all you know. People hear what percentage of words people hear. I mean, when people talk. But they remember what you do. That's what the early church was. They grew and they were so strong and not even Rome could defeat them or disband them because they're not what they preach by words, but what they preach by action and by love and compassion. And what if we were to be known? Just start here. We're all the choir, okay? And we're preaching to the world, not by words, but by what we do. And if we were to be building that community, and we are trying to, we always have been, if we are inclusive, radically inclusive, if we were to be resisting all that is harmful to the world and backside and everything else about the world, harmful to people, if we resisted that, if we actually took Mary at her name and rebelled against all that is defeating the soul and trying to feed us, divide us, if we were to share the good news, not of what people say the good news is out there, let's make more money, let's figure out whatever it is. If we were to say good news means that there's hope in this world, and that we're part of this, and God is part of who we are, radical love. Imagine if we were known to be a church of radical love. I bet people start to say, oh, right? Same thing with nonviolence. We had John Deere, the nonviolence person, along with some of the great names, but he's one lifting this up in the world today. We had him here a year ago. Nonviolence is going to transform your life and the life of an institution, the life of our world, if you're going to take it seriously. Jesus took it seriously. Why don't we? Right? That's John Philip's message. Unity. If we don't think we're one, if we tell people out there, I don't care who you are, come on in, go out there where you are too. No divisions. Creation love, we cherish creation, and we are going to work on the margins. That means all people. If we were known to be a church like this, I think every one of these things we try to do. And that word was out because we're out there telling people and showing people, not just telling, showing people. That's at least the first thing. Is all I can say.
A week from yesterday, Saturday from noon to 12 at the Roundhouse, there's I think it's a national protest. I don't know if you've heard of it, called Hands Off.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with that?
Indivisible.
It's happening all over the country, and I think there'll be quite a turnout. It's basically to say, we're not quietly going along with what's going on in this country, and it's nonviolent, but it's to show we're not just gonna, quietly, look the other way while we forfeit so many rights, and look the other way when there's no support for human rights and civil rights and other rights. So if you're willing to give up, an hour or two of your day, this coming Saturday at the Roundhouse, I think I'll be there, and I think there'll be a lot of people there.
Did you say noon or what?
12 o'clock. It's Saturday. It's called Hands Off, and again, it's a national protest, and I think it's going to be one of the better organized events. If you Google it, or maybe we can put something in the newsletter about it.
So keep that.
But it's basically just the same thing. It's to show nonviolent way of showing resistance and unity, and not everybody believes in what's going on.
Well, there you are, everybody. This is our wrap up of the course search. I hope it's been enlightening. I hope you spent some good time here wrestling with some of these ideas. I hope you take these ideas with you. I hope it takes shape even more fully in this church and others in years to come. And there's an amazing world out there. And so let's be part of all of that to make it that amazing. Thank you all. Go in peace. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Gail. Thank you, Scott.